Welcome to Deeply Disturbing Things,
the podcast.
I'm Macy.
And I'm Naomi.
And we're two counselors who like to talk about deeply disturbing things.
And wrestle over where the mic should be positioned.
We're both kind of control freaks. And so I was moving the mic and then she would move it back to where it was before. And I just moved it again. And
really, it's only an inch difference, but it feels so much better there.
I know, but
But to you, it feels so much better in the other spot.
Because you're closer over there. So I'm moving it where it's over here.
I'm just
trying to center it.
I'm just gonna let it go.
Are you?
Just not worry about it.
Well, because you moved it back.
I know, it's on my spot. I'm not worried about it anymore.
Worrying about it?
No, I'm not worried about it. See how that works?
How about now?
And now instantly I'm stressed. That 1 inch makes a lot of difference, as it does in life.
Can we compromise at half an inch?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, me too.
I feel okay. All right, cheers.
Let's get started. Any check-ins for you?
Let me think. I don't think so. I'll probably come up with something while you're checking in.
My check-in is already what I shared with my poor father, who's had to deal with raising an only daughter of, hey, Dad, by the way, I've continuously had my period for 3 weeks because of a birth control change, and it's miserable. And I'm so sorry. I'm nauseous and have headaches every day, and I currently
do you have the sensation or whatever the DSM says?
Oh my gosh, I was searching because it says after 7 days go to a doctor. God. And yeah, the first thing that came up was premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And I'm like, you know what? This is so bad because it doesn't take into account anything else, like the fact that I had a medication change, which did impact it.
No, it's a crock of bullshit and lies. Like a lot of the DSM.
I'm not even that moody. I just hurt. I'm in pain constantly.
Well, I feel for you.
Thanks. Did that bring up any topics for you? Because that's all I have.
No, I was just thinking what day is it? Because sometimes that jogs my memory.
What day is it?
It's Thursday. Idea. I just
always
figured
Thursday
it out.
here.
It's Thursday.
It's always Thursday in the podcast.
Friday Eve.
This is true. It is Friday Eve.
Oh, we're going to go skating this Sunday because
yes.
It's finally going to be over 60 degrees and not snowing.
Yes. I would like to say I did walk into your house while you were teaching your son your traditional ways
of making rice
in a pot. Do you do the knuckle with the water? Have the water line? No, it's all by sight.
No, I use a measuring cup.
Oh, you're very stupid.
Thank you for thinking it was that much of a hardcore ancient Chinese secret.
It was such a nice little moment of, I could see the stress on his face of, oh my gosh, there's so much pressure for me to not burn this traditional rice now. I come out there, I'm like, what, you don't have a rice cooker?
Fuck no. No rice cookers up in this house. No, he can make it, but he prefers not to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to have your mom do it.
Yeah.
And Fair. It's really easy.
I love my mom doing things for me.
Me too. What have you done for me lately?
I'm going to Costco tomorrow with my dad again. Costco trip. And afterwards, it's the treat. You always get the chicken bake with the fruit smoothie. I'm excited.
Boys I always get them the chicken bakes with the berry smoothie.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
I get nothing from that place.
Why? I don't.
They don't have a tofu skewer.
I mean, they probably do actually.
They don't. They have Hebrew National hot dogs.
Oh, you've looked.
They have churros. They have pizza. I think they might have a chicken Caesar salad. They have mochas, freezes.
You're talking about Costco like it's one aisle. I'm very confused because there's so much food there.
Oh, I'm talking about the deli.
Oh, in the deli, in the whatever thing.
What are you talking about?
I don't know, the whole store.
Where are you getting fruit smoothies?
No, I went on. Have I told you I'm not feeling well?
Is there that corner of Costco I'm not aware of where they're handing out fruit smoothies?
Did you not know about the aisle?
I don't. I want to know.
It's like Bed Bath and Beyond. What's beyond?
Have you ever been there waiting for a rotisserie chicken when there are none, and the way people just turn into wild animals as soon as they start loading up the rotisserie chicken?
Positioning themselves.
Area. No, people swarm in, they're shoving. I'm surprised nobody's been killed.
I know that happened. My dad was like pushed out of the way, and it was like, yeah, you're gonna have to be more assertive than that, Father.
People be crazy for those rotisserie chickens.
Those are primo.
My boys like it on rice with a little tamari and hot chili oil.
Yum.
Okay, well, I think you're first, actually.
Am I?
Because you went last time.
Did I?
And you said you liked it?
No, you went last.
No, you did. Facial hair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said, I actually like going second. You said that.
Yeah. All right. I'll go first. Are you ready?
We already
I know.
Before we were recording said, you said something about a knife, or I said something about stabbing somebody.
Yeah, you said something about, somehow we were, I feel like that's
somehow stabbing came up in the conversation.
To just, broadly go over.
There was a context, people.
At some point, she was talking about slicing someone's throat. And then I was like, that relates
out of context.
And I said that relates to my topic. And you said,
I said me too. So I'm interested to see our connection.
I think it really would have been better if they knew what context. I don't
even remember either.
Now you just sound like
crazy people.
Yeah.
So be it.
It happens.
Oh. So be it.
Okay.
I don't think we can walk that back at this point.
We're at
we're like
where we
140 something episodes in.
You don't even know. We're at 144.
There's documentation.
This is 145.
There's a record.
Shit. There's a record. I've seen records of people's videos be used against them before.
I know.
Was that the Tiger King lady?
Carol Baskin.
Oh, okay. So my topic, don't look at me.
Don't look at you, or don't look at your laptop.
Don't look at my laptop or me. You can look at me. It's fine. It's
gonna be a long night. If I can't look at you. You
can look at me. Fine. Do you want to though? All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about a rabbit trail I went on when I was looking into Eastern State Hospital.
Oh,
local, yes. So first I had to kind of dive into about the hospital because I didn't know much about it. It's in Medical Lake, about 20 miles from us.
Washington.
The original building is still the current building. It's huge though. Have you been out there?
Yeah, it was, when you're in school that you have to go out there for a visit at some point and do an activity.
I didn't.
I played basketball with people.
They made you do an activity at Eastern State Hospital.
Mine was basketball.
So it was commissioned by the territorial legislature in 1886. So it's actually like super old. I didn't even know that it was that old. And basically, because there was so many mentally ill at the time, and I'm going to use the verbiage. It's going to be used throughout, honestly, of very outdated terms for people.
Are you going to say the word madness?
I'm not even that one, but things like instead of like person-centered language, like a person with schizophrenia.
Oh, they say schizophrenics.
Yeah, they'll say schizophrenics. And even just saying like mentally ill to me is still, I don't even like that verbiage.
What does that even mean?
It's so vague. It's vaguely stigmatizing. So, okay. So they made Eastern State Hospital. They didn't make it like a baby. They built it because of this big increase or just recognition of people who had mental health disorders. And Western State Hospital was the only other one in Washington State. So in our whole state, there's only one place to send people. So that's where it came from. And they had like a whole wing for men, a whole wing for women, very big building. And it had, trying to think here of what it was. Different units. So 3 different units, 287 beds total. The 3 units were broken up into 91 adult psychiatric units, 101 geropsychiatric units, and 95 in the forensic units.
Got it.
Okay. It's not, I feel like a question on your
No, I just wanted to make a comment that where it's located, Medical Lake, I thought we could go out there for one of our deeply disturbing local tour outings because it has a really cool history. I mean, the term medical lake makes me think of like dirty syringes.
Me too, in the lake.
But that's not actually what it is. It like used to be a very healing place. It was a sacred space for Native people.
Cool. Did I tell you I almost lived out there by accident?
No.
Well, actually,
that's far away.
I did live out there, co-lived with someone for 6 months and then left. But during that time, I actually looked at a house that was for sale out there in the middle of nowhere on a farm.
No, that's not my style.
The guy saved me because there was like a root system going through the sewer. So that's why it didn't go through. Because at the time I rationalized to myself. I'm like, it's not that far out here. It's not that far. It's not that far. Now, every time I drive in from out of town, I'm like, it is so long.
No, that last stretch, that last 15 minutes is like 5 hours when you've been on a road trip.
Yes, it's the worst.
You always hit that first like tree line.
And you're like, I'm close.
15 minutes. Yeah.
You're not close enough. Okay.
It's not close enough.
Yeah. Okay. So they had different units. Okay. The geropsychiatric unit is for folks who are age 50 or over and had special medical or physical needs. And the forensic service unit provided evaluation and treatment for adults referred to the hospital by the judicial system.
Have I used?
I choked on my spit.
Have I said the F word tonight already?
Which F word?
The F word.
No.
I haven't?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'm going to challenge myself to not say it all night.
Oh, did you say it before and then you?
No, I wasn't sure.
Oh, are you not allowed?
No, I'm going to challenge myself to not say it
you
tonight.
You just don't want to?
Because if I can get through my topic without saying it, it's going to be a miracle.
Okay.
And I always like a challenge.
Can I say it right now just to make it even worse?
No, you can say it as much as you want.
You can't say the... Oh, now it feels weird.
I know. Now it feels weird. See?
You don't want to say the effing word.
The F word. A bad word.
The naughty word. I feel so... I blame my health condition.
Sorry.
My ability to concentrate is all over the place.
Made you feel dirty.
Okay. So they did a lot of custodial care for a period of time at this place. And early on, what?
I did not move the mic.
I just watched you move the mic and then you just admitted it, just backwards. You're so guilty. Like you literally just told, like you made direct eye contact with me that said I did something wrong. Put it back. We have an agreement.
Okay, it's back.
A little more.
Fine. We should mark
you knew that.
A spot with tape.
No, you just know. Time. You just know you were trying to fib. Like a fucking liar. There.
You did it. You crossed the line.
It's gonna be a great day. Okay, so back.
Crying. Why did I bother putting mascara on?
Way back around the start of the 20th century, this building was often called an asylum for patients. It was really a separation to pull people away from the world, basically, from those in the community who didn't know how to handle, work with, or support people who had mental health disabilities or who were involved with the judicial system and involved with mental health.
It was an out of sight, out of mind pit they could put people.
Yeah, really sad.
Without, offering any kind of services or treatment or anything.
In the 1930s was really the first big development in therapy for treatment of people. So it started giving some positive results for some, and there's a lot of negative results. This is therapies such as shock therapy, insulin therapy, metrazole, shock, electroshock. Honestly, really horrible methods when used applied to anybody with a mental health problem. And that was pretty common back then.
Is that when lobotomies were going on too?
Yeah.
Former topic. Look it up.
Go look it up. During a 2-year period in the early 1950s, over 1,100 patients received one of the convulsive therapies. Altogether, about 15,000 treatments were administered. And still today, electroshock therapy is still used for people who may have really chronic and treatment-resistant depressions that have not been impacted by, they have to do at least, it's the same for transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy, TMS. Both of those, you have to be able to say that you've done at least 5 types of medications that have failed in treatment and therapy has failed. So it's now
like a treatment of last resort.
Now, then it was really the like
frontline treatment.
Yes, which is
it's so extreme, so invasive.
So in World War II era, treatments kind of turned into work therapy for all those not residing in locked wards, or roughly about 80% of the patient population. They worked 2 to 8 hours a day, doing things like baking, farming, sewing, gardening, cobbling, landscaping, housekeeping.
Cobbling?
I know. Isn't that great? After a day's work, patients would receive either group or individual counseling, and the counseling focused on corrective perceived moral or religious deficiencies, which were seen as the cause of the demented condition.
I'm sure they made them, talk about how their mother screwed them up.
Probably.
Quite a bit.
That's definitely this era for sure.
Yeah.
Post like 40s, 50s-ish during this realm.
Tell me about your relationship with your mother.
And how this led to your, quote, demented condition.
Was she cold and unfeeling?
It's really hard being counselor. Like when
Did she offer you the breast?
This is important. Did you put the breast in your mouth, or did she?
Did you bite her while suckling? And she smacked you in the face.
I think that's probably on one of our episodes at some point about some serial killer at some point. Yes. You're making it really hard for me to go back to where the hell I was. Well, and it's hard being a counselor. I teach new counselors, and one of the first things when they take their psychopathology course that I make them learn about is the history of counseling, which came out of a really bad history of mental health treatment, which came from a medical model. It's just like, hey, you have to learn about the crap.
It's an old white guy based field.
Yeah. And it's like, we have to, this is why ethics
not
exist.
Just old white guy, but like specific old white guy.
Freud. That white guy.
But that whole
There's an episode about Freud too, and his cocaine habits. If you're interested, go find it.
Oh, we did talk about that, didn't we? Did.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's also a cocaine hippo episode too. Everything's connected.
Everything's connected with cocaine.
Okay, then I shifted away from that model to patient is problem phase. This went from like 1941 to 1954-ish. Concerns over hospital retention rates of patients led to this next phase of treatment where the patient is the problem. Treatment began to incorporate the Freudian theory of the causes of mental illness and focus on the individual patient's thought processes, formative experiences like mama sucklings, and genetic factors. A significant factor in this approach came from returning World War II soldiers and medics with frontline experience of mental trauma and mental trauma caused by war.
Freud is another F word.
Freud.
Just pointing that out.
We can just say Freud as the F word. Freud.
Oh, Freud.
I feel like you have to I don't know.
Freud you.
Freud you.
Freud off.
Freud right off. So dumb.
Work smart, not harder.
Oh my God. I was the one that recognized it today. That was like 3 days later.
Macy made a typo on our last chit chat upload.
The ridiculous part is I did it 3 times. I had to put it when I was putting in the title on the actual recording. You can see that they're exactly the same. I wrote the same stupid thing 3 times. Okay, sorry. I'm ranting. Told you I'm not having mood swings. It's Freud's fault. So people were coming back with symptoms from trauma in World War II. On the front lines, these groups developed methods for first response. Short-term crisis therapy started developing for those in distress that allowed them to return to the battlefield.
So Freud and fascinating.
What time is it? 6:28.
Damn it. I tried.
I'm going to find this time marker and figure out how long it took you to say that.
I tried.
Not hard.
I did try hard.
No.
I was just, when I get passionate, I can't help it. I was gonna say, like, have you ever watched that old footage of like soldiers that had trauma back in that day? How it was like so somatic, like they couldn't walk.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
It is.
That I think like during different time periods and different cultures, like trauma expresses itself in different ways. That's what I wanted to say. That's what released the demon.
But that's the hard part of this. So they do short-term crisis work, basically like fix you right now to get you back out. But that doesn't, what we know about trauma, that doesn't work. I mean, sending them back into trauma after a short, relief of it. I've never heard of that being actually effective. Have you?
No, because it's not like exposure therapy.
That's why I'm like,
I mean, I guess it is to the extreme.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But your mind and body can only handle so much.
Yeah, I mean, if it's overwhelming,
we get into
then you're just re-traumatized.
Not right or wrong, but helpful or not helpful. Not helpful. Okay. This interest in understanding mental illness.
I'm totally paying attention to you.
Increased group therapy. Why are you fiddling and pointing at me at the same time? I find them both highly disrespectful.
Well, I just remembered that I left this other wine in the freezer, and I'm already just going to explode.
Do you want to go get it?
No, I'm just going to text Asher to take it out. So I'm totally paying attention.
She's totally paying attention, but having a complete conversation.
I'm just saying, I'm like literally 3 words. Take the wine out of the freezer, which is more than 3 words.
We'll wait. It's fine.
The things that Asher has to do.
Like not burn his rice. It's a lot of responsibility. Not have his mom's wine can explode.
You know what? Ohana means family.
You are not Hawaiian.
No, but I do like Lilo and Stitch.
Me too. It's one of my favorites.
And I raised my kids with that philosophy.
With Lilo and Stitch philosophy.
Yeah.
Like
Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind, including the wine in the freezer. Okay, I texted him. Done. See? No, I'm back. I just didn't want.
How long do you want my topic to take? Because this is just like introduction.
I didn't want an explosion.
You're not even on the thing I'm going to talk about yet.
Okay, sorry.
All right.
I'll be quiet.
Just let me breeze through this part. Chemotherapy phase then came next during the mid 1950s. This is when
we're on.
Like psychotropic drugs became the norm. So using pills to treat mental illness, and often what they would do initially on like even trying, like with the insulin, for example, they'd actually try to put someone who is having a lot of mental health symptoms. They try to initiate a coma with insulin and view that as therapeutic. This is kind of the step up from that with pills, saying that it's kind of like a chemical straitjacket, being very subdued by the medications in a lot of ways, and really with the goal to reintroduce them into society. Here's medicine, symptoms are quote unquote under control, and putting them back out. At the hospital's 12th superintendent, Dr. G. Lee Sandritter, stated, "As long as we hang on to a patient, he won't get well." So this is them starting to try to reintegrate into the community.
The recovery model emerges.
The new policy was for patients to be kept in the hospital only as long as medically necessary before being released and reintegrated. This will come up in my topic here in a bit. Sandritter was then fired in his second year amidst the controversy. The Spokesman Review had a number of articles alleging misconduct at the hospital under his supervision, including runaways and sexual misconduct between staff and patients. It is unclear how much of these allegations were actually based on fact. Some said it was disgruntled employees, blah, blah, blah.
This was pre-Me Too movement, obs.
Way obs, yes. Okay. Now, then comes community mental health movement. This phase, which continues today, was catalyzed by new legislation in Congress. The Mental Health Study Act, passed by Congress in 1955, established a joint commission on mental illness and mental health to evaluate mental health treatment in the U.S. The commission's recommendations for reforms incorporated in the 1963 Community Mental Health Act, where they put grants and federal funding together to work on how to establish community mental health centers to deal with outpatient treatment of the mentally ill. Many were not accepting of this model. Discrimination, common in the community, I think still occurs today. Our current, the homeless camp on next to the freeway. I'm trying to remember what street it's on. I don't remember.
It's right next to the freeway.
Yeah. So much talk about people being scared. Scared. Did I say that word? Scared.
What are they scared of?
Well, they're scared about people with mental health problems being there, and people who are transient and may have criminal intent. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions. Obviously, it's not pleasing to the eye either.
Right. I mean, it's a complex issue.
It is a complex
for
issue.
Sure.
And that is not my topic. So we're gonna what was the word, like glaze over this or just brush over this?
I think
I don't remember.
You might have said breeze. I'm not sure.
We're gonna breeze over the topic of increased homelessness and stigma in our city. Okay.
Future topic, maybe.
Maybe.
Perchance.
All right. I'm going to talk about a notable escape from Eastern State
Do
Hospital.
tell.
This happened in 2009, September 17th.
Oh my gosh, I remember this.
Me too. Me too.
I was scared.
I was scared too.
Because of course, anything bad's going to happen to me.
I know. I locked all my doors. Okay, so what we just got excited about, I got goosebumps. What is that?
I don't know.
So this
Your
is
period.
Very emotional. I'm gonna cry. Okay, so hospital employees took a group of 31 forensic ward patients. So if we remember, forensic
Oh my God,
ward,
I remember this. Did they go
I
to
know.
the freaking Freudian fair?
They went to the fair.
It was like a field trip.
It was a field trip. They called it a field trip. Okay, so
It's all coming back to me.
So they took them on a field trip to the Spokane County Interstate Fair. One of these patients, 47-year-old Philip A. Paul of Goldendale, Washington, wandered away from the group. And actually, I found out like they call it walking away. Walking away at institutions like Eastern is actually fairly common. But because this was in the community, it created a bigger stir. So it's been labeled not a walk away like they would on site, but it's
walk
an
away
escape.
Means, I mean, it's a locked facility, so I'm not sure why they're calling it a walk away.
It's because they actually have like open free time to roam. They have like unsupervised visits. So would
it be that term elopement?
Yeah, it's kind of like elopey.
Which always makes me think of antelopes for some reason.
Antelopes eloping. Yeah, so this was dubbed an escape because there was specific constraints around that situation and they were in the community. So this escape at the fair led to widespread distress because of Paul's criminal past, which we'll go into that in a minute.
Yes.
I knew nothing about this. I just remember being freaked out kind of on the hype of it. And part of me, I'm a counselor, I'm a social advocate, I work for like people like this. It felt like a bunch of stigma too.
It's when worlds collide. It's like that time I got jumped.
Oh yeah.
When the sheriff first arrived and they're like, well, do you want to press charges? My immediate reaction was no, because clearly they're having some kind of mental health situation.
It's so hard. I've like literally had to convince counselors like being verbally or physically assaulted is never okay, even if they're your client. Like it's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had to take like several days for like to process this. Finally, I'm like
brainwashed. Honestly.
No, I'm actually going to circle back and it's press charges because I was thinking of like public safety also. Like
absolutely, because she was just in a public park.
I mean,
she grabbed her hair.
Yeah, I mean, I turned out okay because I can't be hurt.
She does yoga.
But other people, I was just, I kind of got a different
And I just want to say it would be completely okay for you to make a police report just for yourself.
I didn't feel that though.
I know. I think it's a big, like we get so far into empathy land that we forget that our safety matters and that we have rights as well.
I was upset about that Starbucks matcha latte spilling out on
your
my
white pants.
Nice white, fine.
I remember you sent me a picture of it. It was the most egregious green on the most bright white.
That was bad.
Okay. Anyways. So we'll get into what he did because I looked into it. So really at this level, people surfacely kind of knew that he was found not guilty by reason of insanity in a murder in 1987 of a woman of Sunnyside, Washington. So supervisors of the field trip, one of the things that really upset people, didn't report to police that he was missing for 2 hours. And I both understand on both sides, again, that conflicted feeling, because I could imagine if these are my staff members freaking out, trying to find him.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit.
I can also
where'd he go?
Understand
we lost one.
The supervisor side. Well, and not wanting to cause a panic and he's around here somewhere. And to them, they said he had been a model person there. They had no concerns about safety.
But
which was an issue.
Harking back to my last topic, if he is a psychopath, that could just be all lying in wait, waiting for that opportunity.
It could switch, yeah.
Could be manipulative.
Yes.
Just trying to be good so you get to go to the fair.
So he was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. Again, their words, not mine. I'd say a person who has paranoid schizophrenia. So with that, though, that means that he's probably and was on medications, but I found out that prior to this happening, he had refused his medications. So that's also a risk factor that the staff didn't take into account. Again, 2 hours would not be okay if you're not contacting police. They also had 31 people with them. That's a lot of people. So they're still managing.
Yeah,
30.
What's the client to staff ratio?
And they noted that he wasn't the only murderer out on that field trip, just for people to know. Okay, so the fairgrounds were not shut down when they were notified. Fairgrounds did then end up notifying the police, and they had concluded that he did leave the premises. Fairgrounds did not shut down. Upon hearing the escape, fairgoers were angry by the decision for the whole group to come out there in the first place. But this is actually really common for bringing groups from the hospital to ball games or
I think the outing in and of itself is fine.
Wrong. I agree. And
I think maybe the screening process could have been looked into, staff client ratios.
Yeah, there was
the supervision of the group.
4 staff, I believe, for 31 people.
Yeah, I mean, just some different, it's a training opportunity.
Do small groups. I know this is your management software going it could be us. Anyone could make this mistake.
And I'm thinking also from his point of view, what a perfect opportunity for disappearing into the crowd.
Right?
It would be so
and
easy.
And maybe 2 hours came because they didn't notice he was missing. Could have been.
Yeah.
And you don't want to admit that.
Right. So I think, unfortunately, it's situations like this that do lead to changes in practices.
Policy and practice, yes. Yeah. So, okay. So here's what ended up happening.
What happened?
It took 3 days for them to find Paul. They found him in Goldendale. So he had actually connected with a friend who gave him a ride from Spokane to Goldendale. And then 3 Spokane deputies made the arrest after Paul tried to hitch a ride in their undercover unmarked van. Yeah. At the time of his arrest, Paul was reported carrying a backpack with food. Oh, and staff had said that he had just $50 on him when he disappeared. So he had a backpack with food, clothing, some personal items, as well as a guitar, a sleeping bag, and a what's it called? A scythe?
A scythe?
Yes.
Where do you get your hands on one of those?
I don't know, but it was in his bag.
Maybe he nabbed it at the fair in the ag section.
Maybe
it was part of a display.
Maybe, but a little disturbing to have in your backpack after going missing, right? Okay, so here's the deal.
What's the deal, Nancy?
People were like, okay, he should not, with his history, shouldn't, being someone who previously committed murder, and even if it was in the 80s, whatever, should not have been allowed to go. And I still think at this point I would have been back and forth on the like, well, like people, like just to have humanity of like being able to not be locked in a brick building your whole life, like having some sort of something, especially if there's mental health involved. Okay, so now I'm just going to skip ahead to real quick what the chief executive officer of the hospital said. His first response was he was a fairly model patient. He had not acted out in any way. And he ended up putting in his own resignation shortly after. And he said, hopefully this will move to help signify that a change in leadership at the hospital is being taken and that new vision and direction can be brought forth to lead the hospital. So obviously it got enough bad press, which I do remember a big community,
there was a lot of stuff about it.
So seven staff were disciplined for Paul's escape. They weren't fired. They said that this stemmed from the failures by the employees to assess safety properly and for not contacting authorities in a timely manner.
They were disciplined?
They weren't fired, but they were disciplined.
Yeah, but who established the policies and practices they were following?
I know, right?
Who's disciplining them?
Systems issues. So, and that's why what bothered me is this chief Eastern State Hospital.
This.
Because initially he's like, it's fine. He said he was a model patient. He didn't act out. He literally minimized the threat and then said that his staff didn't assess risk properly. So I agree. I think that's a little slanted. It's a systems issue.
Slinging the poo.
Because employees don't pick how many people. I would love to have like enough staff going out in an outing like that to not feel like something's going to go wrong. You want to feel like it's safe. Yeah.
You want to feel like you can do your job properly.
Nobody wanted that to happen staff-wise, guaranteed. Okay, so I'm gonna.
They probably felt like shit,
right?
Oh, that's an S word. It's okay.
That's an S word. You're allowed. You've already messed up though, so you can't go back. Okay.
I've already ruined my night.
Okay. So then I was like, "Tell me about Philip Arnold, Paul. Arnold, Philip Arnold.
Tell me,
Paul.
Where is he now?
He's there still now.
Oh, he's still there. Okay.
Okay. So let's go back in time together.
Let's do it.
Okay. April 1987.
Okay.
A very nice old woman, 78, out gardening. She loves her garden, says her daughter. Like that was her passion in life, was gardening. She was out in her garden, and this man who lived nearby approached her and slit her throat twice.
Just out in the garden?
In her garden, and broke her neck. And buried her in a shallow grave in her garden.
In her own garden?
In her own garden.
Oh.
And he said to keep the animals away. He soaked her in gasoline before he buried her. And then he actually called and told deputies that he heard voices in his head that instructed him to, quote, kill the witch on Emerald Road.
Command hallucinations.
Yeah.
That is a risk factor.
Yes. So then in July of 1987, Paul was found not guilty by reason of insanity in Motley's murder and was ordered and held indefinitely at a state mental institution for the criminally insane. Okay, now what does indefinitely mean? It's not a trick question.
I don't know what that means. Forever, but maybe not.
Okay. Okay. So 3 years later, Paul refuses his medications at the hospital and then escapes in 1990. So this was not his first escape. This was his second escape.
He has a track record.
Yes, which should play a role in whether or not someone
that should be part of that assessment.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's arrested near Fish Trap, Washington. And while being booked in the Spokane County Jail, he actually overpowers a deputy, shattering the law enforcement officer's shoulder. And a jury later orders the state to pay the deputy more than $100,000.
Wow.
Right.
Shatter my shoulder, Paul.
I don't think you want that. Are you kidding me? Your medical bills.
Okay, maybe not a shatter, just a little crack would be.
You already have cracked shoulders from Dirty.
My whole body is cracked. Probably along with my mind, to be honest.
Yes. Okay, so that's a little backdrop. We're in the 1990s. 1992, Paul enrolls at Spokane Falls Community College and is allowed to leave Eastern State Hospital to attend classes. This is only 2 years after shattering a deputy's shoulder and escaping. So I'm like really confused at this point.
That seems a little loose.
It seems a little loosey-goosey. A little loosey-goosey.
Was there somebody that went along to like make sure there was no escape?
I'm sure it was a transport issue.
No, but was somebody like outside the classroom?
I mean, I don't know that. They don't tell us that.
Okay.
During the next 2 years.
I mean, this is somebody who killed somebody.
He also worked part-time at the Goodwill store.
Oh.
Downtown. About 30 hours a week.
I've been there.
So me too. So about 30 hours a week plus taking classes. So he's spending more than 40 hours a week in the community just 2 years after he did that. And after obviously murdering someone, was that 87, 88? So like
I'm curious. I'm having a lot of curiosities.
I'm glad.
So if somebody's in like reg prison, and they want to be able to go out in the community, the victim or the victim's people are allowed to come and say why that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
So are family or victims allowed with a mental health hospital able to say, no, this person needs to stay locked up?
I don't think they're
because
even notified.
I'm still being impacted by this crime.
I don't think they're even notified. I did like though that you mentioned that, because when he escaped in 2009, the daughter left and went to California because it was so distressing for her to hear about it that she's like, I just need to leave the state, because I mean all the media was focused on it. And she said it brought her to a bad mental place.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So I agree. You know what would be interesting is we should probably have Papa Stead on sometime to talk about maybe what that looks like in prison compared.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Because I don't know. Okay. So
Tell us.
Okay. So at this point, he's working a lot in the community. So in October of 1994, 2 years later than working in Goodwill, he's been working there for a couple of years. He seeks a release from a court-ordered commitment. A Yakima judge refuses. So he's not allowed to leave. Then in 1998, so 4 years later, he seeks approval to return home to live with his parents in Yakima Valley and is allowed to spend 2 weeks at a time at the family home, return to the hospital to receive his meds before doing another 2-week transition. This was just like blowing my mind. I didn't know any of this was like a thing. Yeah, I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
Okay, so now we're in 2000. 2 years later, he's been doing these at-home transitions. Paul is then approved for full-time return to his family home. But within a few months of being completely free of the hospital, his counselors begin expressing concerns over his progress. And my first thought is this whole thing is that he does not like to take his meds, and he stops taking his meds. So when he's no longer at the hospital, he's no longer forced to take his meds. So it makes sense that it's shortly after, because he just stops. So his counselors start to get concerned. And in October 2000, so he was released home June. In that October, Paul is ordered back to Eastern State Hospital after treatment providers noticed threatening and delusional behavior. Among other things, Paul tells the counselor of someone he thinks is, quote, a witch.
Uh-oh.
And that was in 2000. So that's, 10 plus years after the original incident, he's now having delusional thoughts about a witch again, which caused him to murder someone.
A witch which caused that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Okay, so he's back at Eastern now. This is now fast forward to October 2005. Paul is approved again for a conditional release to the Carlisle.
Oh, Hotel Carly. Hot Carly.
I used to have 27
That's right down the street
at the Carlisle. And I had some gems of clients who I love to see, but honestly, it was sketchy in certain apartment rooms. I will not lie. It was
so many memories of the Hot Carly.
Yeah, like don't go up the stairwell because like there's sketchy things going on. If
there's time, which there probably isn't, I have a personal story to tell. No, like you tell your thing. This is not actually related. It's like loosely related.
Okay, we'll loosely connect back if you remember.
If you remember.
I'm not in charge of you. I refuse.
And that's the problem with my life. Nobody is in charge of me.
You're in charge of yourself.
Wow.
You're an adult.
Damn it.
Okay, where the hell was I again? Okay, so he's back at the he is now at the Carlisle, which is an assisted living facility in downtown Spokane.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They changed.
Yeah.
They did change. At this point, it was where they would have like a caseworker assigned to them in the building. They did have certain expectations and requirements about living there, but it was very loosey-goosey in some ways as well.
And right in the hotbed of downtown Spokane.
Right in the hotbed. I would specifically park at, I think it was like a Pizza Hut nearby to try to have my car. Domino's, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd park my car in the Domino's parking lot. Cross over the long way so you don't cross the alley. That gets a little sketch. Once you're up front, like the people out front are totally friendly. Like they're out there just hanging out. Like this is their life. Like that's their social corridor. Always super friendly. It's just certain people, and it's usually the people that don't want to see you, who aren't there, who specifically know when your appointment is and then aren't there and waste your time. All right, sorry. It's personal now. Okay, so then he ended up dating a woman there who became pregnant and had a baby boy in 2006. I found out this baby boy is actually still a ward of the state.
Oh.
At least as far as the last article I found. So in February 2006, Paul is ordered back again to Eastern State Hospital because he was refusing to take his meds at the Carlisle, which is a no-go. Like Carlisle, again, the case managers are pretty strict about like, you have to take your meds regularly. You have to go down and pick them up. I mean, there is some trust involved with that. So that means that
you can still cheek things.
Yeah, like, so that means he specifically was straight up refusing, probably not working with the caseworker at all. Because I know some of those folks, like they're good at their jobs. They really are.
They are.
Okay, so he's ordered back. October 2007, we're getting a little closer to the time when he escaped. Paul is approved again for release of the Carlisle. So he was only back at Eastern State for a year and then was released again to the Carlisle. Counselors reported that he began exhibiting increasingly defiant behavior. Okay. So behavior got worse from between 2007 to 2009. Paul is ordered back to Eastern State Hospital after refusing to take his meds and being spotted in a pawn shop that sells firearms and other weapons, which is prohibited under his release. Shocker. So he literally went right back to Eastern before this. So that was in January. It was only in September that he had his field trip and escaped.
Wow. Okay.
So you can see like he was in and out, like, which takes effort.
It doesn't speak to stability to me.
It doesn't speak to what?
Stability.
For him?
Yeah.
Well, to me,
to go on a field trip like that, you have to have some demonstrated stability.
Agreed. Yes, absolutely. Well, and for me too, with this, like he's clearly mentally functioning enough he's consistently retaliating against all of these orders. Every time he goes back, he then gets back out shortly after, which no one's going to do that for him. Right. He is pushing these things. He is trying to get appeals. So like that speaks to me a lot about intent of having some mental competency to be able to make those decisions over and over and over
right
again. There's a pattern that's
which kind of speaks against that original, insanity play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if he's hearing voices and that theme came up again of the witch, like, it doesn't mean that schizophrenia is not there, but that doesn't mean that another diagnosis isn't as well. Like one that
there's some indication of like pre-planning.
Yeah,
perhaps.
He's calling friends to pick him up to take him back to his hometown. He's advocating to live with his family. He's obviously well enough to date a woman and probably someone else at the Carlo.
I mean, the cornerstone of insanity plea is knowing right from wrong.
Yes, exactly.
And it seems like he's able to know, like, this is the rule. I need to follow it.
And then he's breaking it.
Yes.
And that's what's interesting to me is it's every time he's out of Eastern, he stops taking his meds, stops being reinforced. So is it either he's choosing to stop taking his meds?
Is it stopping taking them and then it leads to the behavior?
Yep. So chicken or the egg.
We may never know.
Unless he gets released again, which is highly likely based on this pattern of how many times Eastern has let him back out.
But I'm sure they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's pretty thoroughly this next time. I mean, this has been like over gosh, when did they first? Or not? I don't know. I don't work there.
Since 1987. I was
16 years old.
I'm all for like promoting somebody to be in the community, but like assessing the risk, and
putting the supports in place so it's successful.
And every time counselors are sharing their concerns. So why is that only coming up after the fact? Read their notes ahead of time.
Read the notes.
We put time into that. Read the notes.
Read the Freudian notes.
We literally will get attacked in a park. I'm pointing at you. Be attacked in the park and have a green tea spilled on us and not make a charge. If we're concerned, there's a problem.
There is a problem.
Because when we see things, we're like, oh, what a cute knife. Yes, self-protection is really important. Yes, for sure. Go hide it in the bushes over there before you come in the building. I've literally had that conversation with somebody.
No weapons allowed.
No weapons allowed. Go put it in the bush. We'll go have our session and then you can get it after.
Oh, the all protective bush.
Okay. So, gosh, he did share that. So some like odds and end pieces I found in other places. He did say that he felt that Motley way back in the original murder, he felt that she was a witch who was casting spells on him. A judge ruled earlier that month of when he escaped that a paranoid schizophrenic, and their words not mine, a paranoid schizophrenic killer who remained at large Friday after walking away from a supervised outing was a threat to public safety because he had become more aggressive and less aware of his psychosis. So again, there's something that was documented, probably by counselors, that he was becoming more unstable and they were
less insight.
Yeah. Field trips are common, and that's really all I have about Philip Arnold Paul. He's there now, and that is like kind of the biggest smear across Eastern State Hospital.
A smear of cream cheese.
Enough where their chief executive quit over it, or was forced out, which is honestly the way that it works in big organizations like that.
Yeah. Or is like ducking. I don't know. I mean, this is all like.
I think it was a mistake, honestly, for him to come in and defend the actions first of like, well, we thought he was low risk. He was a model patient.
This is why you got to research before you speak.
Because then, all you have to do is read that timeline and be like, shake your head and be like, what were you thinking?
Yeah. And then you can prepare a way better public statement where you're like.
Just hand me your resignation, sir, because that wasn't poorly researched. That was not well researched.
And I wonder if all the, rush to make him, free and be able to live, how much of that is like a pivoting of like cultural, political.
I do think that that's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
Because that whole community mental health model is, which it always is lowest level of care. What is the least restrictive environment? So it's like, well, how long has there good behavior
we got to get
been?
people out, integrate them into society.
Which most of the time works, just to Be fair.
Right. But I think maybe this is just gesture. Different gesture.
Yes.
Is like just a really maybe too hard of a pivot from the previous, because everyone was like, I mean, obviously that's inhumane. Like people need to be able to get out there and live lives, and maybe not enough structure was put on that.
Absolutely. No, they didn't prepare for that switch at all. Here in the UK as well, they had a similar issue where the rug basically was pulled out from under institutions like this, which again were put there by the states at first. So they're funding and operating the way that they have been and have been publicly allowed to, and was seen as morally okay at the time. And then all of a sudden public opinion changes and they're in the wrong. And then they yank people out of there because an act was made. Great. You made an act. Okay, where are the supports for the people? Where are they going to live? What about risk factors?
And I'm always hesitant to drastically change the rules because of one situation.
I have a word that stands out in my brain, rapid cycle change. That stands out to me.
Yeah, no, that's in my brain as well sometimes.
It's this concept of like just reactive changing to things because it's quicker than assessing the whole scenario.
And we don't need to work out all the details. Let's just do it.
No, let's just do it and let's just see what happens and then solve those problems. And that is honestly,
we'll evaluate in 90 days.
Yeah. And that's exactly what the whole like moving away from asylum model was. I do think that those were horrible situations for most people, but if carefully thought out, planned over time, could it have been more supportive? Yes, because like that's part of the reason we have such a bad homeless population with mental health issues is because of that long tradition of nowhere to go.
And no structure in place.
The hospital inpatient won't keep you. You're not sick enough to go to a big hospital and you have no family that supports you, then what?
And if you've been institutionalized in jail or in like a hospital for a long period of time, you can get really out of touch with how to function in our rapidly changing society.
Yes.
Through no fault of your own. I mean, if I was locked up for 20 years, I would struggle.
Struggle be real.
Real.
All right. There you go.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited for you.
Oh, now you're turning the camera so I can see myself?
Well, because I had to look at my notes.
Hi, us.
Hi. It does feel more normal. We're so used to it.
I know. I do want to get another beverage, though. Can you, entertain the troops?
I mean, you did this at a bad time when I have run out of my topic.
Just something.
Okay. Oh, boy. Just nothing's coming. Just literally nothing.
Luckily, we are right next to the kitchen.
I see you've got a bottle of wine. Where's my glass? Are you going to pour it in my
Well, it's hurting. Just pour it in your can.
It's okay. I still have half left. You're drunker than me.
I am not drunk at all.
You've had a whole can. Wait.
I'm tolerant. My tolerance.
You're not drunk at all. Go ahead.
My tolerance is up from Passover.
Good. Go ahead. All right. Evidence.
Okay. I'm super excited about this topic because it's like my culture, my life. Here we go. And this topic is loosely related to a topic I'm going to do next week, which I actually did that topic first. And then this topic came up and I did the rabbit hole thing. And this topic comes first in time.
None of this makes sense to me because you're referencing all things that I don't know, but great. I'm glad this brought you to this place. I'm happy to be here.
I'm in a place of peace.
You seem really happy. Your cheeks are red. Is that the alcohol or the topic?
That's my race. Hey. Okay. I'm going to talk about
actual alcohol. I know.
The sad story of Sid and Nancy.
Who are they?
Oh my God. Our listeners know. So I'm going to talk about Sid Vicious.
Okay. I know who that is.
And Nancy Spungen.
Oh, I don't know her at all.
That's the Nancy of Sid and Nancy.
Oh.
And so Sid Vicious was born with the name John Simon Ritchie, and he was the bass player for the Sex Pistols. Oi, oi, oi.
Oi, oi, oi.
Which is basically the call to arms for all punks back in the day. So
one of my favorite movies is SLC Punk. That's about like the Iowa punks, and it just cracks me up. I love it. Oh, I mean, there are some sad parts, but it is a good
sounds
movie.
Amazing. Okay. The Sex Pistols, iconic punk band. They formed in London in 1975. So little Naomi was 4. Macy was
dead.
Just a glimmer in her daddy's eye.
Dead. That makes me reverse live. I don't know.
Yeah, you reverse dead. Okay. So even though this band was only together for 2.5 years, they're considered one of the most groundbreaking, influential acts of modern history and are credited with initiating the punk movement in England.
I just don't understand why Gutter Pony never took off in the 2 years that we.
It's because you didn't give me a sticker.
I gave you stickers.
Not a Gutter Pony sticker.
I don't think I had stickers. I was too poor for stickers.
Well,
I was a college student.
We can do it post. Give me a t-shirt, give me a sticker. I
have t-shirts. I don't know why.
And it'll be resurrected.
Why didn't I have stickers? I think I made stickers, but they were like poor quality.
I know, they're the ones that are made on paper.
Yeah.
And they basically dissolve the second they're wet. I've made a lot of stickers like that too.
I had a band.
So their sound, their clothing, their hairstyles, their punk rock attitude has really like through a historical lens been credited with initiating the punk movement in England. So in 1977, the Sex Pistols released their only album, Never Mind the Bullocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, which I have an original pressing in my living room.
Oh, fancy.
You know, I collect the vinyls. So this LP like created chaos and mayhem and inspired anarchy and was actually a huge success. The song God Save the Queen, She Ain't No Human Being, was banned by the BBC and nearly every independent radio station, making it the most censored record in British history. Punk rock.
So punk. I mean, and at that time too, like British monarchs and all of that is like such a prominent feature at that time. Like that's what everybody looked up to.
Yeah, and to like speak against that, which I mean, if you like look into what the band says they were saying, they weren't making personal attacks. It was about the idea of like monarchy in general and like just having to be born into that lifestyle and how much like they thought like it was a commentary about how like that sucked.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like, oh great, you're just born into that and everyone else isn't. Like most of everyone else isn't. Well,
and no also like the expectations and like lack of like choice, I think was an aspect of that.
It's just like what they say goes.
Yes. So Johnny Lydon still today. Who went, well,
it was the Queen's birthday recently. She's 97.
I know, and she got a Barbie.
And 2 horses. She had a picture between 2 big horses because of her horse love.
I'm surprised there weren't corgis in there because she has corgi love too.
Yeah.
Johnny Lydon went by the name of Johnny Rotten and was the singer. And he was recruited by the band after being spotted with green hair, wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt with the words "I hate" handwritten above the band's name. And
I was just thinking like, that's a band that I know so many people that got behind, and like, people are going to hate me. Like, I just find it slightly obnoxious. I don't know.
Oh, I like Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd, it's just like a little drawn out and just end the fucking song.
Well, that's your opinion. You're entitled to it.
I am. Me and Sid Vicious.
I happen to absolutely love Pink Floyd, but that's a future topic, so I'm not going to get into it.
Everyone I know loves Pink Floyd, so
I don't love all, like, I'm not going to sit down and listen to all Pink Floyd all the time, but there are some songs that are just
here. I'll put myself
charged in my heart.
I'll put even more flame on myself. I understand the lure of the Beastie Boys. I get it. I find their voices highly obnoxious over like more than one song. I can't do it. I have to turn it. I can't.
3 Jews from Brooklyn. Yeah.
It's kind of what it sounded like over and over.
I love them. Love them too.
I know.
It's okay. Look at how we can disagree.
I love disagreeing with you. It's my favorite.
So he also had the hole scratched through the band members' eyes on the t-shirt. The other band members in the name were Ben Matlock on bass, Steve Jones on guitar, and Paul Cook on drums. So at this time, it was just such an incredible music scene. I mean, the mid 70s, like London punk scene. If I could go back in time,
that'd be a fun scene to be part of.
Oh my God, I would have just been right in there.
I think that I would be, but I probably wouldn't be.
I would have been in there. The Clash and the Damned were opening for the Sex Pistols. And they went to go see the Ramones on their night off. I mean, that kind of scene is like just mind-blowing.
To me, that's very like replicant of like the Seattle grunge scene, like because it was like they changed bands all the time, and you may like, go to a grunge show.
Yeah, you're like, I went out Friday, saw some Pearl Jam.
Kurt Cobain. I saw Kurt Cobain, but he was playing in this other band. Yeah. Like they just like were all over the place.
The Subpop Incest. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. In 1977,
Subpop Incest.
Bass player Ben Matlock left the band. And
is that not a real thing? Because it sounds like it should be. Did you just make it up?
I don't know.
Keep drinking.
I don't want to own things.
Can I just use the paper?
No, there's no paper in this house. I don't have plastic sandwich bags or paper.
What does that even mean?
It means
why are you saying it like you're scolding me?
I'm either stupid or eco-friendly. I'm not sure. I haven't figured it out.
I'm going to use the paper you printed my map on.
Your mind map. In 1977...
What did you just say? I already forgot.
I forgot too. In 1977, bass player Ben Matlock left the band.
Subpop Incest? Is that right?
Perchance.
Okay.
And Sid Vicious was recruited. Okay, track the story, Macy.
I'm tracking. I'm making up for the part that you didn't listen to me for. Keep going.
That was 1 second when I texted Asher to prevent a mishap.
That was a solid 5 seconds, about the time it took me to write Subpop Incest. Keep going.
Okay, so Sid Vicious, back to our topic. He was selected partly because he was like an uber fan at every show of the Sex Pistols, and partly because of his look. So he had like this quintessential punk look, which like described now, or like you look back and it doesn't seem like it's anything like really like unique, but really at that time, like wearing a leather cuff with spikes, or wearing like a leather jacket with some spikes on it, or something like that was like
out there.
Punk rock. Like it was punk rock.
It was fucking punk rock.
Freudian punk rock.
Trying to get you.
So the band's promoter and manager, Malcolm McLaren, said, quote, "If Johnny Rotten is the voice of punk, then Vicious is the attitude," unquote. So he really kind of had the look, had the attitude, but a lot of that, from my research, was almost set like Sid was kind of set up to like have to fulfill this role of being this like super outrageous, vicious guy.
Yeah, here's your role, play it.
Yes, you're Sid Vicious, go. Guitarist Steve Jones actually played the bass on the band's debut album, never mind the Bullocks of Sex Pistols, because Sid was in the hospital with hepatitis. So none of the actual recordings of Sex Pistols have Sid Vicious playing the bass.
Interesting.
It's the guitar player doing it. I know. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
By all accounts, Sid Vicious, before joining the band, was a shy, sweet, goofy, funny kid. Johnny Lydon, then Johnny Rotten, gave Sid Vicious his name after his hamster, who was named after Pink Floyd Syd Barrett, bit him.
Mm.
I'm definitely going back to Syd Barrett in like 2 episodes from now, people. So tune back in. So in recent years, Johnny Lydon has expressed guilt about bringing Sid into the band and said he was ill-equipped to deal with the pressure and prone to falling into the drug culture. It wasn't long after he joined the band that he became addicted to heroin.
Mm.
Sid played his first show at the Sex Pistols in 1977 when he was 18 years old. The whole band is kids. Mm-hmm. Like, they're all teenagers. And when I was younger, I saw them as adults. And now, when I look at it, like, they are just little kids. They're just kids. And it's just really interesting to have that perspective shift. Yeah, like Sid Vicious looks like a little child. And I just like have such like sympathy for him.
Yeah, gotcha.
Fans loved Sid, even if he couldn't play bass well. So he had a rep for sucking at the bass.
I just want, so a second band I was in called the Hospital Floors. I played bass for them. I never played bass before. They just needed a bass player. So I switched over to that. Why
is the handle so large on a bass?
Well, the strings are bigger.
It just, I mean, it seems so long. Because they're always doing this.
I mean,
like dancing with a broom, it looks like.
Some are longer than others. But I remember specifically, so we recorded a CD and we went to a recording studio, and there was like one song that like no matter what I did, I was like not perfectly hitting a part, and the guitar player came over and he took my bass and he recorded
it's just
that
like
part
Sex
for me.
Pistols.
Yeah, just like it. Actually, that was probably the best band I was ever in. And I have to say, bass is way easier because I played drums and gutter pony. But bass is way easier, especially going from drums to bass. I understood rhythm.
Can't play bass. I watched slap into bass. I watched a lot of videos of him just trying to like see like, because people are saying like sometimes he would be up there not even playing it, he'd be like talking to the crowd, or sometimes like they would just unplug it at performances and he would just be jumping around, like swinging around. And
that was the part I didn't have down, was the energy. Like I was so self-conscious while doing it. Like, no,
he had the energy down. He did like the jump up in the air leaps.
I would have needed
like
one of your
split leg leaps,
like airplane Xanax, but I didn't know that existed at the time.
Xanax.
So I went up there in pure social anxiety of phobia, playing bass in front of a crowd.
Yes,
I did it, but
and I think that's like part of why he ended up getting really into drugs was to just sort of handle all that pressure of the fame. I mean, everybody just was focused on him.
Yeah, and you are in a whole different scene. Like, I was not even cool. And just being in the band scene, what that means is other bands that you're playing with, like you're interacting with these people who are traveling on the road, and like you do get introduced to this like whole different world constantly. And
it's a subversive world.
It's a subversive world full of Subpop incest.
So everybody loves it. When the band performed, the whole crowd would gravitate to the left side of the stage.
Are you going to pour it in there? Why did you look at the can? Are you actually going to do this?
I mean,
what do you mean?
Now you're challenging me, so I feel like I have to.
You do have to. And I am challenging you.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. That's a really...
Oh my God. Okay. So hopefully that's...
You should do it.
Hopefully that's good.
Can you give me a splash to wet my whistle?
That's not good, Will. By the way, I'm using my sock from my dirty laundry basket to like wipe up this murder scene we've created. You just spit wine all over me. Are you okay? Literally, I'm wiping my brow from the wine you spit onto my face right now. You know what? Thank God I'm not wearing white cords right now because this would be another stain.
Just
stain on humanity. Okay. What was I saying?
Sorry.
So when they would perform live, all the fans would like crowd to the left side of the stage because they just want to be in front of Sid, which watching all this footage, I 100% can relate. They couldn't take their eyes off of him. Sometimes he would cut himself in front of the crowd. He would play covered in blood. He's now iconic. Are you okay?
Yeah,
here's a picture of the Sex Pistols back then. Do they not look like children?
They were babies.
That's Sid Vicious. That's Johnny Rotten.
Those are the kids I wanted to be friends with when I was in.
No, this is like my ultimate.
I remember, so one of the best things about being in the band, the Hospital Floors, was like the lead guitar player and slash singer he was just like off the hook. Like he'd break guitars and we're like, dude, it's your last guitar. Like, what are you doing? Like,
it doesn't matter. It's fucking punk.
We have to
Freudian punk.
we have to practice on Tuesday because we have another show on Sunday. Like that was my brain. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop jumping into the speaker. That cost me $200.
That's not a lot punk, of money, Macy. It's not punk.
It is. You know what's not punk? Not being able to practice.
No, that is punk.
It is.
That's punk.
It is.
I mean, I have never really like studied Sid Vicious until now.
Faces.
And he's over 18 in all of these. So it's okay for me to say.
Which one?
Like back in the day, like he is cute.
No, he's not.
No, he's my cute. Again.
He's that third one, right? Yeah.
He's my cute.
No. He looks like the kid that was bullied in school for not talking to
and people. And he always played with a shirt off. Come on.
Yeah, but he's like
I get the allure.
And okay, yes, in high school,
he's like heroin chic.
Okay. To be fair, in high school, heroin chic was my first boyfriend was literally a Kurt Cobain lookalike, 100% played guitar, played open mic, blonde hair, everything. I get that. Okay, maybe I just need to put myself in like.
Put yourself back in the day.
Back in the day.
I would have been all in. I would have been massively in love with him if I wasn't 6. Does that mean
I'm old and I'm
yes,
like, I want to feed him?
Yes, you're old.
I want to feed him and put him to bed.
That's why I was saying, like, I had this whole shift looking into this because when I was like back in the day, like they seemed like adults and I was a kid and I'm looking at it, I'm like, he's a little kid. And then I'm like, okay, but like back, like putting myself back in that perspective, I would have been 100% massively obsessed with him. The
day I saw my first boyfriend playing guitar on the stage, I went to a show. This is how we met, and his band was playing, and he was the guitar player, and he like jumped off the stage and was like, they were like crowd surfing him while he played guitar. It was literally the hottest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
See?
And then we made eyes. And that was it. And then I dated him for 2 years.
If Sid Vicious would have made eyes with me back in the day,
who knows what
I would have been done.
Done. Just you would have poofed.
And you can see, like, look at him with the other band. Like, he's definitely like the one that has like that energy. I mean, Johnny Lydon,
kind of like far left. Yeah.
Johnny Rotten's singing style is brilliant. Like, he used to roll his R's when he would sing, you know.
Side bang going on.
No, and in researching this, I watched so many Johnny Lydon interviews, and he is so articulate, so intelligent. Mm-hmm. But I think that like he doesn't necessarily get the credit from the mainstream because he's so brutally honest that interferes. But I watch a lot of stuff, and I'm like, yes. I
definitely think back in the punk day, all it took for me was that leather jacket look like the I don't care kind of meh. I loved that.
This is mid 70s.
I know.
This is like revolutionary. This is like
everyone else after that was a copycat.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, look at like this is new. Like just having the hair spiked up, that was like being
because you can even see in his band
obstinate.
His is the most
exactly
compared to everyone.
Exactly.
His is the most leather, most patches, most there's still someone
with the spikes.
Yeah, there's still someone in a loose tux. There's someone with a tie like messed up, someone in a nice jacket.
Exactly. Like this almost looks disco.
Right. So like he's like clearly the like F you guys.
Yes.
Wait, can't you just say it for him? Fuck
you. Yes. I did it.
You had to.
But it was purposeful.
No, you had to.
No, I had to.
You literally had to.
No.
So like I had to spit on you. I had to.
I probably still have fleckles of wine on my face.
Fleckles. Absolute fleckles everywhere.
I think that's a combo of a freckle and a fleck.
It makes sense though. Like when you spit wine at someone, they're gonna have fleckles until they shower.
It's a fleckle.
The fleckle your face.
And a fleckle your face right off. You're right. You're making notes again.
Oh, what was that I dropped?
It doesn't matter.
What did I just say? Fleckle? But what is that even? How do I spell that?
I don't know.
How do you spell freckle? Is that with a CK?
Yes, LES. Let's go back in history.
Freckles.
A little bit.
A little bit in history.
Just a year back.
I was going to say, when you say, let's go back in history.
Because that was 1977. So now we're going to go back to 1976.
Okay. Just like yesterday.
So this is what historians have really labeled.
Using your hands more since doing sign language?
No, I think I always do this.
Okay, that's true.
This 1976 is really like the burst out moment of punk in England.
Yeah.
Like that's been labeled that time period. So Britain had found punk and was fully immersed.
Sorry, I just set my empty can in front of me.
I'm like, we're really going to go through this again. You know, I can't pour wine from a bottle.
Pay attention this time.
Into your tiny
Pay attention. You got this.
Can opening.
Right there. Just don't get greedy.
This is so hard.
If you're playing Elden Ring out there, if you're a gamer, don't get greedy. That's what this game is about.
I don't even know what
Thank you.
that means.
I don't care. Other people do. Thank you.
Did I get some points? Did I level up?
Absolutely. This means get your hits in, back off when you need to. Don't just keep getting hits
because I get my hits in.
You got your hits. You didn't get greedy. You didn't try to
play more. Yeah.
Freud, yeah. We need a t-shirt that says Freud, yeah.
Freud, yeah.
Were you trying to be British?
I don't know. I've been immersed in this topic for like a solid week.
It's great. And you're crying.
I might be British at this point.
With freckles.
Fleckles. So Britain had found punk and was like fully immersed in the scene.
Like, fuck yeah.
Of fashion, attitude, and music. The hair, the lifestyle, all of it was considered completely outrageous and shocking.
I love me a punk belt.
Now,
give it.
I remember this is like early 80s. So this is way after this. Like 8 years after, like 84-ish, I was walking around with like a little bit of punk elements, a little bit of a dyed hair.
I wish I would have been alive back then.
And people...
I wish we could have been friends back then.
Were shocked by me.
Yeah.
Little like 13-year-old, 14-year-old Naomi.
You probably would have scared me.
And we're like... just staring, like you could just really get a lot of attention for this.
I was not until like 16, 17 until it really hit.
I mean, I got my ear pierced up on the top, and that was so difficult to find somebody who would do that for me.
Back then, yeah.
Because it was like...
There's no silver safari.
There was no silver safari at that time.
I have to say, it feels weird for me now to have, because I have gauged ears. They're double zeros. Which was a huge thing during my era, and like it went away. Like, nobody does it anymore. And like looking at young kids now, like you could totally just age me based on my gauge.
They're like, oh, you were then.
You were then. 100%.
I am now.
Yes.
Yeah. So when like they're all talking about how like outrageous and shocking it was, and how like they would interview like the person on the street who was like judging super hard. Like I can relate. I experienced that myself. So Sid was very much a part of the scene before the Sex Pistols. He even is credited with inventing the pogo dance. Do you know the pogo? It's like where you just dance up and down like that.
Yeah, the jumpy thing.
Yeah, where you're like a stick jumping up and down.
I've seen many people do that. Worst thing I've ever seen was, when they like hardcore came into play.
Oh yeah, moshing.
Well, like a step up from
first
moshing.
There was like slam dancing, and then there was moshing.
Slamming, mosh dancing, and then hardcore where they did like the really stiff arms and legs.
I don't want arms and legs in it.
No, and I saw the most horrifying thing in my entire life was this moment when I went to a show. I was at a show, and it was like a hardcore show, so very like loud, fast, and there was this guy that was doing this hardcore dancing, and this other hardcore kid, again, you can tell them by their tight skinny jeans at the time, the black belt, all those things.
The black belt.
Yep. And then with studs typically at the time.
Studs.
And then he's there, and he had his like 5-year-old son there.
I don't know why. Not appropriate.
Here's the deal. This guy comes in, he starts doing his dancing, slam kicks this kid in the face.
No.
I watched it. This kid gets bam on the ground, and then all hell broke loose. The dad jumped at the guy, obviously, and then like I was out the back door. I'm like the whole place.
Run away.
That was like one of the worst.
Well, I mean, don't bring your
shows I've ever been to.
Don't bring your kid to that situation.
I was like, why would you? Why?
Don't.
You're not cool. Stop it.
Nope.
They're gonna get kicked in the face. Can I also, just since we're off, I'll do my quick off.
What's a quick off?
Quick off is drummers don't get enough credit. As a drummer who was in a band for a very long time, like you have the heaviest equipment that you have to haul in and out constantly from venues. Nobody fucking helps you because the singer and the guitar player have girls talking to them, and you're a girl. So nobody's like, you're just hauling your shit in and out constantly with no help ever, and then trying to find parking to get your fucking car in front of the venue to load your gear.
No, I get it. And then you have to have a van. Like, not everybody has a van.
I had a Subaru, which did the deal, but if I didn't have a Subaru,
but if you had like a big set, a Subaru wouldn't even work.
No. I barely fit it between my back seat and the whole back of the car. My whole car was full of drums. If you had like a
Def Leppard set, it would not fit in your Subaru. I still have my drum
set, and it fills everything.
No,
sorry, that was my.
I appreciate drummers.
There's a lot, and I'm not the only one. I see drummers as they just quietly put their gear in their car while their other band members are doing other things. Help your fucking drummers.
They create the rhythm, yo.
It's the only reason why bass players know how to do anything.
Oh my god, bass is my favorite.
I know how to play bass because I play drums. So there.
Okay, there.
There.
So Sid invented the pogo, allegedly. He would get drunk. He would create a ruckus. He would start fights. He even spent a short time in prison.
Dang.
After throwing a glass at the stage during the Damned performance.
That's hardcore. So he threw it at the stage?
Yeah, but it missed and then shattered and blinded a woman and went on
there. Jeez, that's horrifying.
So he went to prison for that. But that wasn't his only assault. There was some other situations.
I could imagine.
Due to time, I didn't include them all.
That's what, like, there were so many fights. Anyone in the punk scene, and I'm much later than the OGs, and they're like, fighting was common.
Well, it's part of the attitude.
Yeah.
I think.
It's like, oh, you bumped me too hard. Dude, you were all bumping each other like 5 seconds ago and we're fine with it. But what about that bump wasn't okay?
Yeah. So he was a part of the music scene before the Sex Pistols. He even played with Susie and the Banshees. He played drums during a festival.
It takes a certain person to play drums, I just want to say.
Let's go further back in time to when Sid was 2 years old. His father left the home and he bonded really closely with his mother, Anne. She was poor and they moved around a lot to survive. So he didn't really like make those connections in schools because they were moving around so much. And she registered as a heroin dependent person so they could live in government housing.
Interesting.
So yes, you're going to get housing, but also that means that young Sid is growing up
in a certain environment.
With an environment, yes.
Not so appealing to most.
By the time Sid was 7, his mom was addicted to heroin. He grew up in drug culture and started experimenting with injecting speed and other substances.
No bueno.
So having a mom and being around in this situation with all the accoutrement, all the like tie-offs and
and even just
everything.
Seeing your parents using drugs as a risk factor, like he
would like just seeing her passed out was just on the regs. It was like just normal. Having people in and out, drug dealers, like that was part of his just lifestyle. So Sid said eventually he was injecting speed up to 14 times a day.
Dang.
So speed was kind of popular in that time, in that scene. When in the Sex Pistols, one night, Sid was crashed out on the floor with Johnny Rotten and a groupie from America named Nancy Spungen.
Okay, I've heard that name. You mentioned her.
Nancy. It's the Nancy of Sid and Nancy. Nancy tried to get with Johnny, but he rejected her. So she rolled over to Sid, who was more receptive.
This is totally a true thing. I just want
to say, the floor sleeping situation, I could totally relate.
Being in like band culture, it was amazing to see like just kind of like being like, because when you're in the band, like you're friends with them and they're like dorks and gross and whatever, like they're like normal people. But when it's someone coming into it, they like do idolize them, and then it's just a matter of like getting in with the power or authority, and they're like there.
Well, just a late night floor situation. I can relate to that.
I had people crash at my house once who had played in a show with me.
And
they
might
just slept on the floor.
Yeah, it might just be physical proximity that determines who ends up with who.
Yeah. Like roll this way, roll that way.
That was what she did. She rolled to Johnny Rotten, who was like, no, probably pushed her off.
Intoxicated into
not just intoxicated. Yeah, this is like a level of drug use I can't even relate to. So then rolled the other way. Sid was more receptive, and he ended up losing his virginity that night to Nancy. Which we know creates a lot of connections, a lot of attachment.
Yeah.
So Nancy had specifically come from America to London to have sex with a Sex Pistol. So she was a major groupie.
I would have hated her. I would have hated her so much. As like a fellow bandmate, I hated the groupies that you could tell were there for that reason. Like they were infatuated. I wanted to like wedge that because it was so gross to me. Like leave my friends alone.
Yes.
Like either like the music and just like the music or go away.
So she accomplished her mission. She betted a Sex Pistol.
And took his virginity.
Which is you're gonna be memorable.
You only get once.
You can do redos, but really you only get once.
Pause. Wait. What do you mean a redo?
Some people psychologically do redos, but you can't true. Actually. It's a made-up thing.
Okay.
So Nancy Spungen had been a heroin addict from age 14, which is really young to be using heroin.
I really hate that I just said, dude, that's really bad. That's not good.
Within days of meeting Nancy, Sid took heroin for the first time. There's a picture of them together. That's Sid and Nancy.
Sucks.
So they
looks like bad influence.
They are iconic. They've been like immortalized as an image of something. There's been so many movies. Like there was a movie that had what's his nuts from? He was the bad guy in Prisoner of Azkaban.
Are you talking about
Gary Oldham? Yes.
Serious? Okay.
Yes.
That's the only way I know him.
He played Sid Vicious and Sid Nancy, and he said
would be a good one,
he hated that role. Because not only did he hate punk music, but he hated Sid Vicious. I'm like, why are you being in that role?
Interesting.
I never saw the movie, but
I just want to like put a little connection here too. When you and I play roller derby, or had played roller derby at after parties, it was a common thing for men to come up to the female skate, and to try to pull them off, almost like
separate them from the pack.
Separate them from the herd. Yes. And
Freud you.
And what I remember about this scenario is like it's so good to have like numbers there to help you.
Safety in numbers.
Because in that moment, it is fun. Someone is being nice to you. Oh, that's nice.
Right. And you're also still high on adrenaline.
You have adrenaline and drunk.
At an adrenaline and a drunk.
And then they like pull you. And you see that moment in your friend when they switch and their mind goes, oh, sure. And then you have
it turn against you almost. You're like, no, come here. And they're like, no, I'm fine.
And then you say, no, you're not. I don't care what you say. You'll thank me tomorrow. And then you just turn to the other person and say, go away. I've had to do that so many times. Booty did that once for me on a call.
I've had the group.
She put her hand on my leg and said, she's taken.
I have also had a time when nobody did that for me, and I continue to regret it to this day.
I was not around them. I would never allow that to
Book
happen.
2.
That was not during my era, was it?
No.
Thank
this is book 2.
I would never let that happen.
Sid and Nancy were inseparable within a month.
I don't think you can read and not get greedy. Just to say.
Sid was hooked on heroin.
Uh-huh.
And nobody liked Nancy.
Why did no one like Nancy?
Because look at her.
Heroin?
No, it's not because of her looks. It's because she was annoying. She was like
every
bad six egos. Like she would tell him you really shined and the rest of the band sucks.
I hate that so much. No, I've seen that over and over and over again. It's usually the lead
singer. She got hooked on heroin. Like that's like the ultimate reason to hate her.
Lead singer, lead guitarist are usually the ones that are the culprits. The chick comes in and then she's like, you're better than these guys. Or she just like spends so much time with them they don't come to practice anymore. Or they start doing drugs and ruin their fucking life.
So these are just kids. Like, let's keep that in mind.
Babies. How old are they ish?
I mean, he's like 20 at this time.
Oh, that's not a baby, but he's baby compared to our age now.
I mean, I think it's baby.
I mean, not that baby.
But
I was playing in shows when I was like 16 and 17.
Right, but if you start using drugs really young, you really have that arrested development, and you're emotionally and
I'm just saying he did that 4 years prior, and he's still riding that roller coaster. Is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this started at 20.
No. I think he's a baby from a few years back.
Yes,
several. So
he's reverse babied.
She was described as crass, combative, and annoying. Like nobody liked her voice.
Gosh, it sounds like
or how she laughed.
Sounds like Courtney Love in a lot of ways.
Well, look at that.
She looks like Courtney Love in a lot of ways. Oh my God, where did Courtney Love come from? It looks like a duplicate. Does it not? Am I wrong? Doesn't it? Oh my gosh. What?
In a recent interview that I listened to, Nancy's mom, who like put out a book about this, said her daughter had emotional and behavioral problems since childhood, maybe birth, and that her family tried to get her help.
Attachment issues.
She spent time inpatient, but just like Nancy was like uncontrollable.
I just want to say, like, I don't like how that's phrased by the parents because it's very much like she was uncontrollable. She had issues.
We did everything we could.
Yeah, probably means that there was abuse in the household or sexual abuse or substance use that then created your child.
Or detached parenting.
Exactly.
I mean,
like there could
we
be
have
so
to take
many
a balanced
things.
look. We have to look at nature and nurture.
Nature and nurture, and
you have to look at both. So it can't be all Nancy. It has to be like, let's do some self-study.
Yes.
So
I'm just cautious of a parent that instantly blames their child.
Yeah, of course. And then we have to also be cautious of just 100% blaming the parents.
Well, the parents
equally.
are the easy ones to point at. And I agree. I think that like choice, especially as age goes on, choice plays a big role in what the child does from that point. And genetics can play in. What are you looking at my list?
I'm looking at your list. What are you writing over there?
What do you want to know?
Because it's interesting.
Hold on. I didn't stop our recording by accident. No. Okay. I'm writing name ideas. Do you want to know what they are?
Yeah.
The Witch on Emerald Street.
Okay.
Subpop Incest.
God.
Can't even read that. Fleckles. What's that nuts?
What the nuts?
What the nuts? See,
You misquoted me.
I don't care. I didn't ask for your permission.
The Sex Pistols,
what I said if you don't say it.
They were starting to fall apart, and everybody blamed Nancy.
Obviously, it's like everyone blamed what's her
Yoko.
face? Yoko and Courtney. I
Sid's
think
friends,
did it, though, so it's okay.
Well, listen to our episode called The Shitty PI. Decide for yourself.
Oh, I'm glad you remember the name.
You're welcome.
He was a shitty PI.
He did not do a good job.
He did not do a good job.
He did not. This is not slander.
I feel
this
like
is
that's
facts.
a common theme, but hindsight 2020.
Truth.
Yeah.
Sid's friends thought Nancy was the worst.
This sounds like something. She was the worst.
She's the worst.
She's the worst.
Well, Sid thought she was like wonderful and amazing. Yeah,
that's always how it goes. It's like
because he's in love. He's born in love.
I remember my guitarist like dated this girl who was actually in my band for a while, and like it was great until it wasn't, and then it was like when they were fighting, it was the worst to deal with because she was in my band. And he had his band, and it was this like conflict all the time.
Yeah.
And you had to walk carefully about what you said about each other. Because even though they would fight and openly like talk shit about each other, they would also like defend each other to the end. So, yeah. Which sucked because you couldn't call like, hey, maybe because this and this.
That'll create resentment.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're too close to do that.
You have to go sit back and support.
You just want to make the music. People and their drama. It's what punk is. Drama.
The band, their manager, and Sid's friends all tried to get Sid off the smack. They really tried.
Is that code for her?
Heroin.
Oh,
and Nancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This plan didn't work.
No.
I mean, they were like providing all the supervision. Like he couldn't even shit alone. Like he had to be monitored at all times. But it didn't work. Like he was just like rebelling against us, which he would.
The thing is like it's just, I mean, heroin, or her, same thing. There's no like pulling them away from that. The more you tell them not to, the more they rebel against you and lean towards that.
Yeah, so they tried Plan B.
Is that a birth control pill that they can take and have up to 72 hours effectiveness?
Actually tried to kidnap Nancy and ship her up to the States. Like they actually freaking Freudian tied her up, put her in a car, and tried to throw her on a flight to the US.
Okay, so band member someone I knew that was in a different band than me, was my best friend. Sissy Zach, we'll call him Sissy Zach. So the name of his band was the Sissies. And his girlfriend at the time didn't like his ex-girlfriend, who wouldn't stop contacting him. So our resolution was, which then became a band name, Tampon Mischief. We soaked tampons in vinegar and ketchup for 3 days and left it out in the sun. And then stuck it under the handles of the car. And then his current girlfriend wrote cunt.
Oh.
Can I say that publicly?
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday on her windshield of her car. And then the ex found it and whatever, and it was a big deal. But that was like one of my most like, oh my goodness, I partook in that incident moments. It had nothing to do with
outrageous.
Me. It was outrageous. She was a singer of my band at the time, which is probably why I was influenced to do so.
Yes.
I'm influenceable as the drummer or the bass player.
So they tried to kidnap her, like legit.
That's crazy. I mean, even this felt scary in daylight, so I couldn't even imagine the idea of kidnapping her.
But somehow she managed to break out of her bonds, and then she rolled out of the car while it was driving. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, she rolled out of the car right in front of the cops.
Wait, okay, yeah, so I don't know how this is going to go.
So she didn't have to leave.
Okay.
England. In 1978, the Sex Pistols broke up. Later that
happens all the time.
Later that night, Sid suffered a non-fatal overdose following their last show.
That's not good, though. That means he went to the hospital.
Yeah. At that time, he was staying in the Haight in San Francisco, my old stomping grounds, yo.
Woo-woo.
Sid and Nancy moved to New York, and Nancy became Sid's manager, preparing for his solo career. And they're just kids, like just drugged out kids. So, you know, that's probably not going to go well.
Yeah, probably.
But like they're living like the 70s punk rock dream. They're like hanging out at New York punk clubs like CBGB's.
It's like everything you hope for actually happens.
They took drugs, they drank, like there was really not a lot of expectations for what you need to do during your day besides like what you want to do.
I'm seeing where I went wrong. Like I was like drink the Paps because it was cheap and you didn't feel that drunk from it and you could still play. I should have done a ton of drugs and then got invited to play at bigger venues.
Possibly.
I could have loosened up. That's
possibly.
The whole thing.
We're not recommending you do hard drugs.
There are downsides.
We're not recommending you do soft drugs.
We don't recommend you do any
drugs.
We're
not recommending anything. You are your own person, and
don't do drugs.
This is a podcast for your entertainment.
This is adult content, and you are responsible for yourself, and we respect your autonomy.
Oi. 48 days after moving to New York, here's where shit turns. 48 days after moving to New York.
Like, what is that movie with my favorite Josh Hartnett, who's my one heart
28
drop?
days? Is that what you're talking about?
Later. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite. I can't help but look at him like back in those B movie days. Like, your face is just gorgeous, sir.
Oh.
He's so good. He's so innocent.
Sid woke up inside room 100 of the Chelsea Hotel to find Nancy lying dead on the bathroom floor.
Oh, shit.
With Sid's knife.
What?
Connection sticking out of her stomach.
No.
His knife.
No.
She's dead. Blood everywhere.
What?
Knife in the stomach. She's just laying on the bathroom floor.
Okay.
What? Did you not see this coming?
No.
I love this because this is like common cultural knowledge. So
no, that's it.
I'm glad that you're shocked.
I don't know anything.
Tell me your reactions right now.
Things.
What are your thoughts?
I spent too much time in school. My first thought is, what happened? I want to defend him, but I also want to be like, wait, what? Tell me more.
That's a perfect balanced approach. He called down to the front desk for help. When help arrived, he was found wandering the hallways in an agitated state and was arrested and charged with Nancy's murder. Oh, he initially confessed and then denied it, saying he'd been asleep at the time. So there was a lot of conflicting accounts.
I get that.
Sid couldn't remember anything about it, and this really tortured him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They were so tight and, it was a twisted relationship, but they're very bonded, and not knowing if he murdered his love, like that tortures you.
Yeah. And like, what's her face who totally remembers murdering Kurt Cobain? And she wrote a singles album about it. Just check out the
Sid and Nancy had been on a binge using Tuinol, a barbiturate.
Okay.
Methadone.
Oh, gosh.
Quaaludes.
Oh, God.
And heroin.
What?
I know.
No, there's no functioning involved there. So at this point, after hearing that, like, there's no motive, there's no intent. It's just drugs. Drugs were involved, period. That's how
I can't even imagine. I've never done any of these things.
No, and I've heard each
of
these
things. It makes me feel sick just to think about it.
No,
like sick in my stomach and in my head, and I would not be able to breathe and I would be scared.
No, I mean, I've heard about people dying from one of these things.
And
that's like hearing all those together. Like, there is no intent. you're not functioning properly, period, at all.
There were many people who had been coming in and out of room 100 that night.
I'm sure. I mean, again, that
it was
culture,
like a party scene.
That's totally that
yeah,
culture.
It's New York.
Whoever.
It's the 70s. It's
especially being that
Sid
popular.
Vicious. Come on.
Being that popular means
I would want to go party in Sid Vicious's hotel room. Well, come on. Just like being nearby, I'd feel like I was cool.
Well, I mean, being that popular means you have to show that, which means you have to give people your apartment number. You have to do those things to rep.
Yeah, you have a rep.
Exactly. You have to maintain that. So people are going to come in and out regardless of what you're doing.
Sid's knife was kept in plain view. Like it was just like out.
Yeah, because it was drugs.
And the couple kept cash in a drawer. So someone else committing the murder is actually possible.
Because there was other people in and out. But to me, that, I mean, but most people in and out are leaving and coming from the apartment, which means they're competent enough to get to the apartment and leave the apartment. They're the only ones staying there consistently on multiple drugs to not remember.
Sid spiraled into a depression after Nancy died. He didn't know or said he didn't know if he had murdered Nancy. His band was gone, his love was gone, and he had no coping skills. He had no purpose.
Yeah, he hadn't
That's
learned
rough.
that at that point. She was his coping skill at that point, an unhealthy coping skill, drugs and her.
From the unhealthy relationship with mom. Feeding him drugs to unhealthy relationship with girlfriend.
Which is all he knew. He didn't know any other way at the time.
The forensic psychiatrist told his mom and Beverly that Sid should not be left alone. Everyone was concerned about his mental health and stability.
Fair.
He was expressing like a lot of suicidal ideation thoughts.
Yeah.
But his mom
loved her regardless of anything.
His mom couldn't look after him properly.
Yeah, it's hard.
So he cut his arms open with broken light bulbs and was admitted to Bellevue Psychiatric Hospital, but it was a voluntary stay, so he bounced. In interviews,
as good as it lasts.
Yeah, Sid did talk about wanting to kill himself. He wanted to be with Nancy. He talked about wanting to be 6 feet under.
Poor guy. That's rough. That's some hardcore grief and loss, probably still toppled with drugs.
Yes, exactly. Sid got his bail revoked following an assault charge, and then
anger, grief and loss.
He spent 55 days in famous Riker Island prison.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they gave him a hard slap on the wrist.
Yeah. On February 1st, 1979, Vicious was released from Riker Island prison on a $30,000 bail supplied by his manager, Malcolm McLaren.
Makes sense. You make no money when they're in jail.
He was free, and he had been forced clean from drugs over the 55-day stay.
The connection between our topics.
So he was clean for the first time in years. His hearing was scheduled for noon. When his lawyers were going to make a case for his defense, they were going to claim that drug dealers had killed Nancy during the attempt to steal their cash.
Okay.
Everyone hoped Sid would get off because the jury wouldn't be able to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt.
I would say if there's some other option.
Yeah.
Even though they don't really know that.
Malcolm McLaren, the band manager, is not there to meet him when he gets out of prison because he's in London because Johnny Lydon is suing him for control of the music. So he's busy.
Of course.
So who is there to meet him?
Other people taking advantage. Honestly, something I've also seen in bands, the drummer will come up. I'm telling you. It'll happen.
So to meet him when he gets out, an old friend, Peter Kodak, and his mom. So he's had a heroin addiction for a year now, and he's had this single-minded focus, wanting nothing but to get high. So he's been 55 days in prison or jail, just completely obsessed with getting high.
Well, and especially with grief and loss too. I mean, heroin specifically makes you feel nothing. So when you're dealing with grief and loss, it's so hard to pull away from that addiction specifically because it's a numbing type of addiction.
His mother has bought him heroin to help out.
Mom, stop it. Gosh.
It's really risky to use large amounts when you're clean because you have low tolerance. But the heroin she's bought her son is not the good stuff.
Off.
So
Mom never buys the good stuff.
So Sid's pissed.
Mom buys on discount.
He's angry and he asks that friend, Peter Kotick, to help out. Sid's mom gives the friend $150 to go score. So he goes off to try to score. He has connections in New York, so Sid's confident that he can.
I mean, that's like not that much money for
out.
him at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of money at that time.
Well, it is a lot of money, but for him, a lot of money is worth spending on heroin at the time. There you go.
So they have a party, and Sid's mom cooks his favorite meal, spaghetti bolognese.
Frick, man. Yeah.
And Sid's like happy. Tonight. He's like jumping around, doing like air guitar moves.
Love it.
Around midnight, Peter Kotick, his friend, comes back to the party with the high quality heroin. Peter Kotick helps prepare his fix and warn him to be careful because it's very strong. Sid got Sid got up a few times, walking around, but then he starts overdosing. So, like starting to turn blue, not being able to breathe good. The people at the party kept him moving around, keeping him up, walking, giving him liquids. Sid's mom said, don't take him to the hospital. She's concerned about bad press, legal involvement. She doesn't want him to go back to prison. He just got out.
I know. I get that, moms. However, speaking to all moms out there, health and safety comes first.
Well, she's a heroin addict herself. So.
I know. I get that. I'm just saying.
Maybe the clearest thinking.
I'm just saying you're wrong in that moment. Choose hospital, please.
So
every time.
Sid came out of it eventually, but people are like out of there. The party ended. People are like, we didn't come here to go to a heroin party.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
They don't want to be involved in a death.
So Sid took more heroin. His friend, Peter Kotick, went to leave also and gave the remaining heroin to Sid's mom and told her, don't give Sid any more. He's had enough. Keep it from him. Sid and Michelle Robinson, who has changed her name since this event.
Yeah.
And he was like kind of seeing her, went to her bedroom. The party was at her apartment. And they were having relations. And Sid's mom went to bed in the room next door. So Sid somehow got the heroin that Peter Kotick said gave to the mom. Sergeant Richard Hausman of the NYPD, who investigated Sid's death, this is what he said. This is paraphrasing about the event. Michelle said they were in bed together and Sid wanted to get high. He wanted Michelle to inject it into him, but she refused and leaves the room. So he couldn't inject it himself because he's very like sweaty, shaky, like in the swings of the withdrawals. So she goes out and then tells Anne what's going on. And then Anne, the mom, goes into the room, goes into Sid's room. So they're in the room together.
I already kind of, just before you tell the next part, to me,
are you having a bad feeling?
Well, it's just the idea. First of all, like I get this idea when I do like exposure therapy with a client and their parent. First of all, parents' first instinct is to reduce the pain their child is in, which leads to things that aren't actually helpful. It's enabling behaviors that continue the symptoms because it reduces the distress.
And she had no coping symptoms herself.
Yeah.
Coping strategies
and
herself.
That's a whole
as an
different
addict herself.
Top, yeah.
So there's nothing helpful she's going to be able to say.
And at this point, I mean, everything you're saying right now just leads me to, it's really like when I work with parents, it's a sad moment when they realize that what they've been doing has been hurting their child and not helping.
And keeping them back.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's hard.
It's so hard.
It is hard.
So Sid died. shortly after of an overdose in 1979 at the age of 21. As a baby.
Young. Way too young.
His mom claimed
21.
that
I went to the first Mexican restaurant with my dad. Had a margarita.
See the difference?
Yes. My first alcoholic beverage ever.
Oh my God. I was like 8. So Sid's mom claimed that her son and Nancy had made a suicide pact and that his death was not accidental. She produced a handwritten note she said she found in his pocket that read, "We had a death pact and I have to keep my half of the bargain. Please bury me next to my baby. Bury me in my leather jacket, jeans, and motorcycle boots. Goodbye."
I don't know. At this point, my experience from families in general is that once someone dies, everyone gets defensive about not wanting to take blame. And this is just my own personal experience with family death and loss, not anybody else's. So it's really hard to see that shift in people where it becomes about who done it versus how do we
move through?
How do we move forward together? Yeah.
Yeah. Nancy's mom, according to her, said,
"How did you do this? How did you do this?
What?
I'm looking at the microphone as an inch back. How is it not happening?
No, it just.
What did you do?
When did you do
that? When did you do that? Oh my gosh, you sneaky. You sneaky. Why are you twitching? Look. When did you do that?
Fine.
Look at me in the eyes. When did you do that?
I don't know.
No, I need you. Look at me in the eyeballs.
It's like hiding the off of Cobain.
You've known me.
You have to pay attention.
You've known me for over 10 years. What, 12 years now? I have no idea.
It's a long time.
And you move that without telling me. Look at me in the eyes.
Oh my back.
No. Look at me in the I don't care about it. I want you to tell me about how you
moved it back towards my
I know, I saw it.
My preference.
Look at me. Tell me when you did it.
I don't remember.
Tell me when you did it.
I don't remember.
Do you apologize? Are you sad about it?
No, but...
Are you upset about our pact being broken?
I don't recall a pact.
Look at me.
Is it a suicide pact?
Look at me. We cannot go back to your topic until this is resolved.
I don't remember. I honestly don't. I moved
Did you
it back.
see how far? You moved it back and it's still not at the halfway point.
I'm sorry there. Is that better?
Did you just look at which direction you moved that? Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Move it more forward now. You're in punishment mode. More. No.
Oh, we're going all the way to you?
All the way because you are bad.
Fine, we can start there.
Stop it. Okay.
When you're not paying attention, I'll just move.
Apparently. That's that laugh. Is it because I spit at you? I mean, it's deserved. But go on. I couldn't breathe until it was addressed. Continue.
Breathe freely.
I will now.
According to Nancy's mom, and I listened to a whole recent interview with her. She just put out a book. Sid wrote a letter to her when he was last hospitalized saying basically the same thing. Mm-hmm. Quote, "We always knew that we would go to the same place when we died. We so much wanted to die together in each other's arms. I cry every time I think about that. I promised my baby that I would kill myself if anything ever happened to her. And she promised me the same.
I hate that.
This is my final commitment to my love."
I hate that gives mom ammo, though, to say that I didn't hurt him. She did. Because she literally has words that she can take and put into a note from him and say it was him.
Yeah, that is his intention.
Yeah. Versus okay, but the actual evidence shows that he was at a party with you. Why wouldn't he have done this any other time? But he did it at a party with you and got drugs from you after everybody left and overdosed. But yet not your fault, must be grief.
It's difficult to know.
Difficult to know. Suspected. Possible.
Nancy Spungen was Jewish, as am I, and is buried in...
I am not, as I can also yell on the other side.
And it's buried in a Jewish cemetery in Pennsylvania. So, and at this cemetery, an interfaith burial was not possible. So Sid's body...
Was he Christian? Is that...
Well, he wasn't Jewish. Sid's body was cremated.
Anti-Jewish is anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, according to Sid's friends, Sid's mom asked Nancy's mom if she could scatter Sid's ashes over Nancy's grave. And Nancy's mom said no. So the story goes that Sid's friends anyway went to Nancy's gravesite and scattered Sid's ashes anyways.
I appreciate that on some level. I mean, honestly, like,
I can see me doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my dad probably disapproved of most guys I dated at any point in my younger 20s. And at the time that I was so passionate, you're just in a passionate time of your life. I don't know. You care about them. So,
I mean, why is that a period to be discounted?
No, like, let that
That's
be.
why I hate when people are like, oh, teen love, it's not real. Like,
dude, it's as real as you.
Maybe your love is just faded and old.
Well, and like looking at someone else's life is always different.
Maybe that's
than
real.
It for yourself. So like allow them their experience. And if that's the end of their life, that is the love they had. And spread the ashes. Why not? Who cares at that point? I mean, he had love for her at the time, whether you acknowledge it or not.
I mean, I respect the religious aspect, but I also respect like the punk rock aspect. Both.
Yeah, I mean, he never denounced her. He never said, I don't love her. So why would you deny that?
Yeah.
I mean, I get other people's, I get the Courtney Love perspective of it of, well, she killed him. But okay, but Kurt Cobain loved her and that was evident in his behaviors and so like, don't take that from him. Judge it after, sure, but don't take it from him.
Sid's mom died of a drug overdose in 1996.
Okay.
In the 2006 documentary, Final 24, author Alan Parker claimed that Sid's mom admitted purposefully administering the fatal dose of heroin to Sid because he was afraid of going back to prison and had doubts about how good his lawyers were, even though his lawyers were certain they would clear him names. So it was an act of mercy. There's no evidence to this.
Yeah, I've read I don't even remember where. I read a recent court document about something similar where the final, like if you, depending on the state, if you are the one identified as injecting the final dosage of whatever the drug was that killed them, that you would then be charged as the murderer, which depends again on the state, which depends on how the court views it, how the
and nobody was in this room. That's the thing. There's no witnesses,
which it doesn't matter. So like in certain states, it doesn't matter. If you admit to injecting, you are the murderer. Which was like, when I learned that, I was like,
yeah, but she only admitted it allegedly to this one journalist. So there's not actually any recordings that I could find of her admitting that.
Journalist leaked that somehow. Or it could have been a state where it didn't matter and then the jurors found her guilty or whatever.
No, there was no
jurors?
Legal proceedings on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was all after the fact.
Yeah, it's after the fact. This guy.
Do we know it was Washington, right? Washington is one of those states, so that might be why.
No. It's New York.
Oh, it went New York.
New York.
It's weird because I thought it. Okay.
New York.
I'm not sure what New York is. I'd have to double check.
So after Sid died, the case of Nancy's murder was closed because police were not investigating any other suspects.
Because there was no one, right? Like they were just in and out. No one's going to claim that.
Well, and did they investigate though? That's another question.
We've always had shitty PI.
Yeah, this might be another situation.
I'm consistently like, I don't know. Did they? Because they didn't document it, right?
Right. And it didn't get documented. It didn't happen.
Which is why I'm so mad about counselors not having their records read, because we document it so it can be shown that it happened. Damn it.
Amen.
Read it before you let people out in a fairgrounds.
According to Wikipedia, Stephen Severin of Susie and the Banshees remembered Sid in positive terms, saying, before he got deeply into drugs, he was one of the funniest guys. He had a brilliant sense of humor, goofy, sweet, and very cute.
Makes sense.
In 2009, Johnny Lydon told The Independent, I'm sorry, God, for the day I brought Sid into the band. He felt so isolated, poor old Sid, because he wasn't the sharpest knife on the block. The best aspect of his character, which was his humor, just vanished the day he joined the Pistols.
Kind of makes me think of like the class clown, right? Like they get the infamy from the humor, but it ultimately cuts them down because they get in trouble.
This is such a moment of synchronicity. Because I was just yesterday watching the interview of Jack Black to Bob Odenkirk, and they're both talking about how they had moments of childhood where they were the class clown.
Yeah.
And if they had been cut down, it would have probably ended their comedy career. But they had teachers that found a place for that clowniness to have value. Yeah. And if it weren't for that, they would not be where they were today. And who knows what would have happened. Because it's a part of it's your person.
It's your personality.
And to be like, that's wrong, that's bad. Like, stop.
There is no wrong in that. I mean, it's just, to me, like, this is where I speak for introverts. It's not wrong that you're introvert. It's not wrong that you're funny, the funny kid class, clown in class. It's not wrong that you're the quiet kid in class. It's not wrong that you're the extroverted kid in class.
Your environment has to create space for that.
Exactly. Like, it should be adapted into it's like when way back in elementary school, this is a pullback here.
Pull it back.
When I was in elementary school and we were taken to, so this was in Snohomish, Washington. There's a lot of swamplands.
Oh.
And we were taken as kids to, like you were taken to.
Where was I taken?
Eastern Mental Health Facility. We were taken to the swamplands to look at like how wildlife in such a harsh environment learns to live and thrive, and it depends on each other. And I feel like that is so the same in school thinners, and as you're growing and developing, is you don't have the perfect assets all by yourself. You have to rely on this bringing you up and this bringing you down in good ways, and this bringing you up and this bringing you down. Like, there's this constant tug and pull of the environment around you. But if it constantly puts you down, you will die. If it constantly puts you up, you will die. It doesn't work unless there is the up and down.
I love it.
Swamplands.
Swampland, truth. Okay, I have to go pee.
I just say, why'd you take your headphones off and walk away from me?
I'm going to tell my hot curly person.
Okay. Swamplands. That was one of my favorite things to go and do. Honestly, I think schools should do more wetland outings if they can. I remember that distinctly in my childhood as a way I learned about how the world worked. Not about people, but just about beings coexisting, like outside of thoughts, outside of moralities, just how things interact and why things might promote, why things might diminish something, and how that can become a very complicated process, but without trying to hurt each other, and ultimately all trying to grow. And that is something I still value today, and I wish it would be promoted more. I think if more outings into nature would happen, like, nature teaches all, like, we're all part of this. And even as much as we try to separate ourselves from it, we're still a part. There's no way you can separate. We're still humans. We're still in a world and an environment surrounded by environment. And even if we try to layer ourselves in this bubble wrap of peopleness to protect ourselves, it doesn't mean we're safe. So we have to find a way to find value within ourselves to continue to grow, or to acknowledge our own weaknesses, because that can be a value within itself. It's not necessarily growth all the time. Sometimes acknowledging your weaknesses help you grow. Thank God you got back.
Wow. You talking while I was peeing. I'm like, oh my God, she just hates every minute of this.
Thank you, God.
It took me a long time.
I feel dizzy now. I put so much
I was
pressure.
trying to, like, you can't really, like, rush it, though.
No, I was like, she's really taking her time in there. Like,
no, I was not.
I knew that.
But you have to relax into it, or else it's just going to take longer.
Do what you need to do. That was kind of my whole point. Do what you need to do.
Sid and the Sex Pistols were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But they didn't show up because they're punk rock and didn't want to be solids.
Fair.
Are we at the end of this, or do we have time?
I was just gonna ask you.
Do we have time for my personal story from your topic, the hot Carly?
I don't care what time we have. We make our own time.
I know, but Podbean cuts us off after a certain amount of time.
No, it doesn't, because I'm not recording on Podbean.
Oh,
I'm recording on Zoom so we can upload.
Work around,
because I'm all about the workaround. I learned how to work it so we can continue to grow while acknowledging our weaknesses, which at times we have to sometimes. Knowledge.
Okay. You want to hear my personal?
Yeah, I'm excited. Tell me. I don't even remember what it is about by this point.
It's the Hotel Carlisle story.
That's right. I'm all about hotel working and case management. Go for it.
No, it's not about that.
Oh, okay.
When I was married.
This is different.
Yeah, I know. To my ex-husband.
Can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
Remember on our chit chat where you mentioned your hair didn't turn out the way you wanted it to?
Yeah.
On the video call, I couldn't tell at all. I can tell in person. Just so you know that I acknowledge your feelings about it. Like, it's a little lighter than what you would normally like.
Well,
I just noticed it in this light only.
Overtone is not that great.
No, it helps
I'm just saying.
Refresh the color. Red sticks better than purple. And purple does contain some reds, but not all.
You have to really sop it on.
Yeah.
And do repeated applications and leave it on for a longest time.
I mean, I want to say
on dry hair.
I commend you for the work you did. I want you to know that, but I also want you to know that I respect and understand why you're not happy fully with it. It's okay to respect both the growth and the limitations. It's okay.
My life may be a mess.
I haven't done my hair for like 6 months.
But if my bangs look good, I'm banging.
I need to trim my bangs, and it's coming to that time. Do you see I'm starting to creep?
I know, mine look good.
There's some creepers here. That one's creeping.
Yeah, creepy.
Creepy.
Do you want to hear my story?
Carlisle.
I was married.
You were married.
A long time ago.
A long time ago.
My ex-husband.
She was married a long time ago.
A long time ago. We're actually really good friends.
They're best friends.
Like now. He attended my Passover Seder last week.
Still present in her life.
Very present. He lives around the corner. So when we were married, he was a window cleaner, and they were doing a window cleaning job at the Hotel Carlisle. At that time, this is a very old brick building in Spokane, and had like the
very
name
tall. Yeah.
Painted on the side.
Carlisle, like very big.
So, but if you looked at it from one angle, it said Hot Carly instead of Hotel Carlisle. So that was what, like, we called it just in jest. Hot Carly.
Uh-huh.
So I knew that my ex was working there with his like window cleaning buddy or whatnot. So I happened to go by. I was just gonna like say hi. So I pull up, and what do I see? I'm looking up, and I see on the very top floor, which is like probably 4 floors up, a ladder sticking out of a window, and my ex-husband's friend just sitting on it, just cleaning the window, just sitting on this ladder 4 floors up.
I think there's 5.
Well,
what I remember.
So it might have been the 5th floor. I was so upset because this is very dangerous. So what this means that they were doing is my ex was sitting on the ladder on the inside of the window and just counterbalancing it. And then his buddy was sitting outside the building, 5 stories up, doing his window cleaning. I was so mad.
So scary.
I was like super, super mad. And like a lot of the ladder was like out of the window because it was part of the whole like teeter-totter counterbalance. I was just
that's too much
really mad.
Hands. No way.
No, I was mad. And then his defense was like, well, how's the inside guy?
Okay, well, fine. You want to be involved in murdering someone? Fuck off. No, I totally get that because that is so upsetting because there is no science to that. They're literally, it's like every dangerous job where they're like, I've done this 1,000 times. Okay, well, 1,000 times you get eaten by the alligator. What was his name? What was the guy who was on Animal Planet forever and then his poor daughter was left behind? What was his alligator guy?
Are you talking about Steve Irwin?
Steve Irwin.
Please, let's not bring him
I love Steve Irwin.
No, I was in a deep depression after he got killed by that stingray.
There are so many people I've been left in a deep depression by, but what I would just want to say is Steve Irwin is a perfect example of that concept of like, don't trust just because I've experienced XYZ, therefore XYZ will happen again.
There's factors.
A windy day.
I remember I was so mad.
Something like
I was really mad.
Unless it's 100% every time, or at least 98%. I'll trust that as a wife. But if you tell me that...
But my ex didn't respond to me being really mad.
No, that doesn't typically.
No, it never worked.
Obviously, Steve continued, despite.
Yeah, and a lot of things continued despite.
It happens. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes tightening the grip increases the outcome.
But can you imagine like pulling up and seeing a ladder sticking out of like a 4th, 5th floor window and seeing your friend sitting out there just loose?
At this point in my life, I'm an absolute fucking control freak because I've had too many people die in my life. That's like the honesty. I'm 33 and I've counted at least 15 people is too many. Too many. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit about what you think about your job. You're done. Get the fuck off the ladder. You're done. Come down the stairs and get a different job.
I didn't go that far. But I did say...
That's right now.
You will never be the guy outside the window.
Like I said, I'm on 3 weeks of a period. I'm throwing cans. She's pouring drinks for me. Sip at a time.
Well, until next time... Always be the guy on the inside of the building.
And if not, you're going to get freckles on your face. Freckles? No. Fleckles.
Fleckles!
Fleckle over your face. And then you go home and think twice about your job.
Do I have fleckles on me right now?
Oh, I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Fleckles were flying.
I seriously felt myself spit across your lap.